Hello, St. Mark kids, Miss Lisa. It's good to be with you today. I hope you're doing well. Today we have a brand new lesson, and we are going to continue talking about Paul. If you remember from last week's lesson, Paul's name used to be Saul, and he used to throw Christians, people that believe in Jesus, in jail, or he would have them harmed. And then he was walking down the road and he was blinded, and Jesus spoke to him and asked him, "Why do you persecute me, Saul?" And he was blind for 3 days. And then Ananias came and prayed for him, and his sight was restored, and God changed his name from Saul to Paul. Well, now Paul he's a big believer in Jesus because of his experience with Jesus, and he's telling everyone that he knows about Jesus. And he's traveling all over the world, starting churches and telling people all about Jesus and his death on the cross and his resurrection. And so today we are going to have another story about Paul. And this time he's going to have a friend with him, and his name is Silas. And I'm actually going to read this book to you. This is called Jailhouse Rock. And so Paul, who's this guy right here, and Silas, they're actually in jail, which doesn't sound like a whole lot of fun, but something miraculous is going to happen while they're in jail. So let's put our listening ears on, and I will read this story to you. So here we go. Can you see the pictures? There. Paul and Silas worked for the Lord, preaching and spreading his word. People would gather and listen to them, amazed at the good news that they heard. So they told everyone about Jesus, told them the good news. But some men got angry and threw them in jail. Poor Silas and Paul were in trouble. Their feet were in chains, the door was slammed shut, and the pair laid alone in the rubble. "We're preachers and teachers, and we love the Lord." Lord, Paul echoed throughout the dank prison. "We praise you and seek you, magnificent one," cried Silas. "We know you have risen." So they're in jail and they're chained to the floor, and they're praying, they're singing, and they're just asking God for maybe to be rescued. So here we go. Let's see what happens. Then somewhere around midnight, when both men were praying and singing hymns loud in their cell, the guards fell asleep but were suddenly wakened by a noise from where? No one could tell. It seemed like an earthquake. The jailhouse was shaking. The doors all flew open so wide. A miracle happened. The chains all fell off the prisoners who were inside. So at about midnight that night, the whole jail shook like an earthquake, the ground shakes, and all the doors were open and all the chains fell off all of the prisoners, including Paul and Silas. So they were just praying, they were singing songs to Jesus, and then the jailhouse just started to shake and they were freed. But let's see what they choose to do. The man who was guarding both Silas and Paul, so this is the prison guard, was filled with great fear and such shame. He thought that the prisoners had fled and escaped, and he would get all of the blame. So the soldier was like, "Oh no, they're gone. I'm going to get in trouble," and he's scared. In great desperation, he pulled out his sword. He was going to take his own life. He felt so unworthy and wanted to die. There seemed no way out of his strife. So he was actually going to harm himself because he thought he was going to be in big, big trouble because the prisoners had escaped. Let's keep looking at the pictures. "Wait!" cried out Paul as he glanced at the jailer, who wept and groaned at his fate. "We have not gone. Your prisoners are here. No one has passed through your gate." The jailer, confused and trembling with fear, called for guards to bring him a light, then rushed in to see what had just taken place on this panic and terror-filled night. "Where are your chains? Who set you free? Why have you not run away?" The jailer then fell down by Silas and Paul. He was humbled and felt he should pray. So the jailer realizes Paul and Silas, even though they're free, They didn't run away. They stayed right where they were. And the jailer he was overcome. He couldn't believe. He was confused why their chains were off. And he was even more confused that they didn't run away. I mean, if you were in jail and all of a sudden your chains were broken and the wall was open, would you want to run? I know I would. But Paul and Silas, they stayed right where they were. And something big is going to happen. So here's the pictures. Many moments did pass. The jailhouse was quiet, except for the men saying prayers. Then the jailer said, "Come, follow me," and he led the two men up the stairs. Silas and Paul continued to pray as they knew God's plan was in place. They saw that the jailer felt true remorse, and they could tell by the look on his face. So the jailer, he takes Paul and Silas and he says, "Follow me." And Paul and Silas, they go after the jailer and they follow him. Paul told the jailer that faith was the answer. All he needed to do was believe. Truly remember that Christ is your Savior, and your soul from the dark he'll retrieve. So they tell the jailer all about Jesus. And let's see what happens. They set off on foot with their torches ablazing. Now hardly a word was proclaimed. It seemed that the jailer, once lost and confused, was at peace and felt strangely tamed. So the jailer's calmed down. He seems at peace. And now they're at a new doorway. He eagerly wanted his family to share in the blessings of peace he had found. So after a while, they arrived at his house, and he called them to gather around. So the jailer takes Paul and Silas to his house. I wonder what's going to happen now. There we go. The household was gathered as both Paul and Silas baptized each one who was there. The good news was loose. It seemed all were eager to tell, to rejoice, and to share. What more could I ask for? The Lord is my Savior. The jailer was filled with thanksgiving. He looked to the heavens and gave God the glory, now feeling his life was worth living. So because Paul and Silas stayed in the jail and they told the jailer, the guard, all about Jesus, the guard, he believed in Jesus. And not only that, then he took Paul and Silas to his house, and the jailer's whole family was told about Jesus and they were baptized. And that whole family life was changed, all because Paul and Silas, they didn't run away. They stayed right where they were, and they witnessed, they told someone about Jesus. So this is a really great story. So for your craft today, I have a couple things that you can do. If you're looking for like a simple craft, I have a coloring sheet. This is a picture of Paul and Silas. Remember, they were chained to the floor, so you can color that. If you have a little bit more time, if you happen to have some, maybe some black construction paper or cardstock, I was thinking you could cut out some black strips. And just to help you to remember the story, you can make circles, and using a stapler, go ahead and make a circle and then take the next strip, right? And so you're gonna sort of make a chain, right? And here's one I started earlier. And this will help you remember the story that Paul and Silas, they were chained. And then the jailhouse shook, almost like an earthquake, and their chains were broken. And if you want to, you can rip it and pull it apart, okay? So that is the story of Paul and Silas when they were jailed. And so I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have a good weekend, and I will see you next week. Bye, friends.